Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the White Curtain. It's been some time, but time does pass and waits for no man. As always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to like the video, comment your thoughts on today's topic, and subscribe if you haven't already. Tell a friend about it to join us on our late night adventures. With that being said, the title of today's episode is Unconditional Surrender. Now, feeding off of the previous episode regarding love, unconditional surrender is a much more difficult situation to deal with. There's no guaranteed situation that allows you to be the individual that you really want to be when you feel like you're being shackled in the relationship that you're in. One could argue that it's almost imperative that you set yourself free. But there are other people that find themselves in different situations that require them to feel as though they need to keep going until there's absolutely nothing left in their tank, until they can give no more and have no more positives to give out into the world and hope and pray for the success of their relationships. For those people, they go until they have nothing to offer except for an unconditional surrender. Now, there are many people that will fight and claw for relationships, but when you reach the point of indifference, you find yourself in a situation where you truly understand that there's nothing left for you to gain, and the only thing that you will endure and experience by remaining in the relationship that you're in is loss and pain and suffering. And so after a certain period of time, when the mind has been put at ease and there is no feeling of hatred or deep felt love towards the situation and towards the partner, that person surrenders. They give up. And sometimes it isn't always in the most grandiose of ways. There's not always an explosive statement said. Sometimes it's as simple as a conversation, whether it be over the phone, on FaceTime, in person, in passing. There's so many different ways to do it. Even some might do it over text. But regardless, whatever the case may be, it is the solidified decision that that person will never end up going back to ever in life. They have come to terms and come to be at peace with the decision that they've made, and they understand that the other person will never likely change into the person they hoped them to be, or perhaps a mistake in their past is just too much for them to overcome in their mind. But whatever the case may have been, it lasted the test of time, and the people of the situation found themselves to feel so comfortable in that dismay that they rationalized it in their head as just another problem. And once that happened, the relationship was all but doomed. Because not only would they become indifferent towards every situation that occurred, but the more negatives that piled on one on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, it would continue to put them in a situation where they felt less and less and less until there was nothing left for them to feel. And so many people overlook this quality in favor of focusing on the grandiose arguments and the feelings and the emotions that go into love, but not enough people go into how much you must love somebody to surrender to them. Not even surrender in the fact that you love them so much you want them to do whatever it takes or tell you whatever it takes for you guys to stay together. No, when you reach a point where their wrongs wrong you in such a way that you can never heal, at the very least by their side and by their hands, as the damage has already been done, and instead you're placed in a situation that forces you to face the reality of deciding whether or not you would like to continue living at that level of your life, or if you feel like you can or must grow. There are many people that get stuck in that loop until there's nothing left, and then they surrender. They eventually explode on the scene, expressing to the other person things they should have expressed that piled on year after year after year, that should have been addressed when they momentarily happened or slightly after. but instead they sat quietly until there was nothing left but them alone in their mind. It's quite an interesting situation when you really consider it, because for most people, they all view love as the feeling, the butterflies in the stomach, the happiness that you feel when you see the person for the first time in some time, the way the mind and body longs for their look, their gaze, their touch, their cuddles. But not enough people pay attention to the opposite side of it, because to surrender is, in essence, the most selfish act you can do. You are effectively choosing your future safety, mental well-being, and lifestyle over what the situation has to offer you in that very moment. And not too many people appreciate that for what it is, because it's very easy to write it off as simply a situation that involves people deciding they want to stay with somebody or that they want to leave somebody. But it goes beyond that. It goes to the point where you ask yourself, how much did this person love the other person? How much did they care for this person when the other person was not warranted to have care and compassion blessed upon them? How many times did that person question their sanity and their desire to be with that person, only to continue doing their job until there was nothing left in the tank? Those people are truly precious because they don't run on logic alone. They are run on their emotions and the feelings and desires that they have, and they allow them to drive them to their end goal. Many people lack the ability to do this on a consistent basis, and ultimately it leads to them suffering to the greatest degree. Now, that being said, being able to surrender is strength in and of itself, and while inherently selfish because you're picking yourself over the relationship and over the other person, it is ultimately demanded at times because there are situations that will always occur where one person is always causing the problem. And if the problem is never resolved, the mountain just continues to get bigger, and its hills even steeper, and its sides even steeper, until it's unsolvable. The impossible riddle that was allowed to mountain up because nobody else wanted to hold themselves to that standard. That said, it is imperative that all people understand both sides of love and what it truly means to feel, to have loved and lost, and to have loved somebody so much you elected to step away because you knew they would be damaged if you were to continue interacting in the way that you did. It takes genuine strength and genuine understanding and genuine compassion for the other person. And that sort of thing doesn't go away. While it may not protect them like a force field would, it definitely sits and lingers in the dark recesses of their minds and those around them to give them a little bit of an extra boost. If not for the feelings of love and appreciation, many people wouldn't understand the difference between self-love and selfishness, or that selfishness is not always wrong, because in many situations, being selfish can allow people to make the proper decision for themselves in the long run, and ultimately leads to more positive decisions by those in their immediate vicinity. As a result, you have no control over any other individual. Only they have control over themselves. And so the best you can do in any situation is guide them in the best way you know how. But just like in relationships, there's always a white flag that can be waved. And sometimes it is necessary, despite what people may feel or think or say. And the more people become enamored with the feeling and desire to be seen and liked, the worse the pool of possible suitors will be for both women and men, because they will both be damaged beyond repair, and those that remain sane will no longer desire to play that same game as they once were required to in their past. Instead, an unconditional surrender seems a lot more acceptable for many parties. It allows them to put themselves in a position to make a play and to really push themselves into that door and better understand their partners. But in many situations, that unconditional surrender is just that. Everything laid barren from the corners of the cabinets, shown before the person, and an explanation that accompanies it, explaining exactly why the end is upon us. There are many ways to do it, and many people have different ways of conveying their emotions. Waving the white flag and surrendering is not always a bad thing. And while it may be inherently selfish, at many points in time it is quite necessary, because all parties can be damaged after a certain point if people do not take care of themselves as they should. With that in mind, thank you for tuning into another episode of Beyond the White Curtain. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I hope your brain decided to think things over a little bit. And if not, perhaps next episode will be the one for you. With that being said, we appreciate your support. Make sure to like the video, comment your thoughts below whether you agree or disagree. Subscribe and turn on your post notifications. And I'll see you next time, my friend.